Please listen carefully.
Well, hello everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Hypothetical Siblings, episode number 30, might I add. Thank you very much. My name is Lainey.
My name is Nick.
And, hi.
Howdy. I really wanted to jump in there and say, like, some fancy word for the 30th of something.
Oh.
I don't have that word.
I was going to say, do you know that word? I don't know
it at all, and I wanted to say tricentennial, but that's 300.
Mm-hmm. Let's just pretend.
No. Because maybe there will be a day where there is a 300th episode of this podcast.
Oh.
Now, granted, if we're doing every week, that's 4 years from now.
I just want to interrupt you and say, why did I think I had to be 300 years old for that?
I don't know. Is it because you're dumb? Maybe.
You said that, and I was like, wow. I was going to talk in an old person voice, thought that was stupid, so I didn't, and I'm glad, because it wasn't even right.
So I really like that one of the things about this podcast is that we are just violently honest as we're recording it. You know, we don't do the little bonus clips where it's like, you talk about it afterwards or whatever it is. There's no, like, developer interview type thing, but we'll just say what we were thinking and then why we didn't say that because we thought it was dumb, which it's got to be madness to listen to.
Yeah. Well, it's like when I was, let's see, 19 years old, and I told my friend that we would be 100 for the year 3000.
You know, you're probably the smartest dumb person I know.
Or like one day...
No, you know what? You're the dumbest smart person I know.
Okay,
because you are a
fair.
smart person, but we are fucking stupid sometimes.
I'm also really gullible, which is horrible.
There's a certain naivete.
I like one time my coworker and I were running to get coffee at lunch, and I was like, do you want me to drive or you want to drive? And she's like, oh yeah, my car's a 1-seater, so, you know. And I was like,
what?
Oh, my bad. Yeah, no worries, I can drive. And she was like, lady, a 1-seater? You fell for that? A 1-seater?
I don't know. Like, I kind of find myself in the same position, though, because people will say shit like that to me, and I just don't think of it as... Like, I don't think that they're fucking with me, especially if they say it normally. Because, like, that's a thing that you can do. Like, people take the seats out of their cars to make it lighter so it go faster. Now,
I mean, I guess.
that is a rare thing. Yeah. I have encountered that exactly one time in my life, but that's a thing that happens.
Right. Or I was thinking a race car, too, and I was like, what, are we in NASCAR now?
God, I hope so.
I hope not.
Praise hell, praise Dale, baby.
No,
yes,
if
sir.
I want to be a part of the NASCAR fandom, I'm doing it through Cars.
Wait, what is...
The movie Cars.
No, I understand the movie Cars, but why... What do you mean through that movie?
Like, I don't want to support NASCAR. Not that I have anything, like... Actually against it, I don't know.
A couple things against NASCAR.
But, like, I'm just not into it. But if I had to get into it, it would be through the movie Cars.
But I don't understand what you mean get into it through Cars.
Like I don't want to support...
you just watch Cars a whole lot and pretend that you're into NASCAR?
Yeah.
All right.
Piston 300 or whatever it is. Is that what it's called?
The Piston Cup.
The Piston Cup. Mm-hmm.
The Piston 300. Yeah, you got it.
Piston Cup.
You did what in this cup? Yeah, for those of you listening, we're in a weird mood right now. It's kind of late. I'm a little bit burned out from a barbecue that I'd been at for most of the day before I came over here to record. I had my first red beer, which is a beer, but you put sometimes just tomato juice, which seems gross, but when you do it with Bloody Mary mix and it's got all sorts of fun, like pepper and whatever else you put in Bloody Mary mix, because I'm not really sure, I just buy the bottle. Well, that's pretty good. And then followed it up with mimosas, so my head kind of hurts.
Nick was crazy today.
Yeah, we get a little wild with the boys.
I have no excuse. Dad and I did go watch Return of the King, the last Lord of the Rings movie, in theaters today because they were doing flashback cinema. And the movie was started at 1:30 and I looked at my phone at the end at 5:45. So I mean, there was like
right. No, that's
trailers
like 3
and
some
stuff
change.
like that.
Yeah. So if you're doing like proper extended edition, that's correct.
So I was roll tired after that, probably just from
sitting in the same place. Yep. Well, then you come home and we do more sitting and more Lord of the Rings watching.
Right. Yeah, I've done a lot of Lord of the Rings today, which I'm not mad about.
No, that's
I'm
absolutely
into it,
okay. Yes. Well, especially so we've been watching The Rings of Power, which is a pretty darn good TV show. I understand that there are definitely, people online are saying that they don't like it or whatever it is, or a lot of people are saying that. I shouldn't say everyone is saying that. And you got to filter out the people that don't like it just because they're racist, because they're like, an elf can't be black or a dwarf can't be black. Right. And I'm like, why do you have enough energy to give a shit about what color a dwarf is, bro?
And also, it's an elf. It doesn't exist.
Yeah.
You don't know.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like, I don't know.
You seen all that shit about don't erase my history with Ariel and the Confederate flag?
Oh my God, no.
Oh, yeah, because everyone's pissed that the live-action Ariel is black, because of course they are.
Yeah.
Well, again, I say everyone. There are a select few who are very loud about being angry. But then there's all these, like, crazy-ass Confederate flags with, like, Ariel in the middle of it, like the animated one. And it's like, don't erase my history, and, like, this is my culture and shit like that. I was like, bro, the Disney movie is not your culture.
Literally, like, you do not give a shit about...
Your culture is not a Danish fish person.
Yeah, well, and, like, did you pretend to ever care about Ariel before? Like, you don't actually care. You're just racist and mad. You know what I mean?
Stay mad and die racist.
So true. So true.
The ultimate evolution of stay mad and die poor, which has become a favorite saying of my friends and I, is now stay mad and die racist. Oh, God. So, I mean, you're running the show, so do you want to ask, like, what I did with my week, or should I ask you?
What did I do this week? I had a crazy week.
Yeah.
I'm taking control is what I'm doing.
Yeah, take control. Yeah. Do it. Yeah, no, you're in charge of this one. That's you.
It's about week 4 of school this semester, and that means test week. So I had 2 tests this week and one on Monday. And I stayed...
Shit, I might have a test tomorrow.
Good.
That's a good revelation to have at fucking 9 o'clock.
Yeah. Good. Great.
Sorry, continue.
But no, I stayed at school probably until 7 every day this week, at least.
Wow. So you're real... I guess because you have like a full course load.
Yeah.
Whereas easing myself back into it, I don't. So you have like lots of tests. I had my 1 test this last week. And then I don't know. I had other stuff going, like labs and things like that. But
yeah, and I kind of have a hard... I feel like my classes this semester are sort of rough, so I feel like I'm trying really hard to like maintain a good GPA and all that garbage. So
yeah, all that garbage of being a good student, bunch of horse shit.
So I had I learned about Niagara Falls. Do you want to hear about it? Not Niagara Falls, but rather about people who went over the side of it. Or did I tell you?
Why? So I don't. You've said what your major is on this podcast. Is that a thing you want to reveal?
I don't know if I've said.
All right. Your major does not lead me to believe that you should.
I didn't learn about it in class.
Oh, you just learned about it. You were walking down the street and some stranger was like, "Hey."
Not a stranger, my friend.
Okay. Sure. Lay it on us.
So lots of people have tried to go over Niagara Falls in various crafts, barrels, kayaks, which the kayak one was stupid.
Which kind of feels like a passive suicide move, because they're like, I either pull this off or I get to die, you know?
Right. Well, so no, lots of daredevils do it.
What is being a daredevil besides being a professional at passive suicide?
Yeah, I mean, that's actually a good point.
Like, what's the guy that jumped the Grand Canyon or whatever, and he had the white cape and the little boots?
Evel Knievel.
Sure. I don't know.
I literally
Well, that's
don't
the
know.
trouble is I don't know his name, right? So clearly, but whatever.
Right. But, so, the 2 most notable ones in my mind are a man who, he was a professional daredevil, so, like, did this for a living.
Which is, do you sell tickets for that? Like,
right,
why is that a profession?
Yeah, exactly.
You get sponsored?
Great question. I have no clue.
Okay.
I mean, I'm sure probably sponsor.
Well, in the modern era, that's how it would work. But like, when are we talking? Because if this is like 1930, I don't think it gets sponsored to be a Daredevil.
It definitely was like in the like probably 60s, 70s. That it may be false though. Nobody fact check it. Just trust me. So I apologize too because I don't know his name. My friend just told me about this. Good. I guess I took everything that she had to say at face value.
We were just talking about the naivete a little bit earlier,
but
right?
It's more fun to believe it. Okay, listen. So
it's more fun to believe fake news.
So he about this. So he commissioned a rubber company to build a large rubber ball for him, and they reinforced it with like steel bars, just so he could go over Niagara Falls. So it's a big rubber on the outside. Do you not
take the rubber factor away when you line it with steel bars? Because now the rubber can't flex.
Well, I don't know.
All right, sorry. I keep interrupting. I shouldn't give enough of a shit at all. Like, you just say whatever into the microphone. Just continue.
And then, so he went over the side, made it. The only injury he had was that his wristwatch hit him on the forehead, which, like, why are you wearing a watch, right?
Because it's the 1960s. A gentleman is never fully dressed without his wristwatch.
Without a smile.
Also that, sure, yeah.
No, Annie says that.
Who is Annie?
The musical Annie?
The animal crackers in my soup type
no,
Annie? What's that?
That's Shirley Temple.
Oh, sure, whatever.
Fucking...
I don't know musical
Annie's the
theater.
Little redhead orphan.
Yeah. Little Orphan Annie.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm aware of her existence.
Sing animal crackers in my soup.
I don't know. I just got my brain poisoned by all those years of infomercials of like the whole collection of whatever the fuck that was. To be fair,
that's a great commercial.
That is a good commercial.
Yeah.
For no other reason than it holds like a place in my mind forever. Rent free. Just specifically.
That little girl.
Because I don't know her name. I don't know what the film was called.
I'm pretty sure it's Shirley Temple, but I
believe
wrong.
You. No, I believe Shirley Temple. But like, I would not have been able to conjure that information, right? Yeah. And it's just, all I remember is her with that black guy dancing.
Right.
Right.
And they looked so happy.
And they are having a great time. And then I remember her walking down the aisle doing the animal crackers in my soup. And that is all that I remember.
I remember she was wearing a really fluffy pink dress that I wanted. And that was all.
I respect that. Respect the drip.
But anyway.
Yeah. So his wristwatch dinks him in the forehead because he fell off a waterfall.
But that's like the only injury he has, right? Which is really good. And then a couple months later, he dies.
What?
But he dies by slipping on an orange peel and falling down. He breaks his leg. And it gets infected, and the infection is what kills him. You are a professional daredevil. You live over the side of Niagara Falls in an orange peel. Kills you.
So I have a lot of questions here. I don't think you're going to be able to answer any of them. But I need to voice them to the world to get them out of my head. First, orange people. Yes. No, orange peels, understandably, pretty slippery, especially if you put your full body weight on them, right? Because we're also talking like 1960s shoes that probably have no traction.
Yep, true.
So you slip on an orange peel. Why not orange people, bro?
Nick's trying to talk about Oompa Loompas right now.
You know, whatever. You slip on an orange peel. I guess that's understandable. Where did you slip on an orange peel?
Yeah, who didn't clean up their orange peel?
A full-ass Looney Tunes, like, construction worker on a high-rise,
right,
peels his orange and then just throws the peel off.
And then someone with a slide whistle makes a little tune as you eat shit.
Yeah, well, you know what? So, and then my other thing is, as a daredevil, do you let the world know that that's what killed you?
Right. Well, I mean, it's
or
in
do
the
you,
world.
Or do you take my body and put it in the rubber ball and do it again off Niagara and be like, he's dead.
Oh, no, he's dead. Yeah.
Because I go back and forth between, like, I want people to think that my death was this crazy, maybe heroic thing, right? Or it's like, no, I want you to, like, make it look like I tripped on a banana peel and, like, busted my brain open.
Depends when I die.
So if you die now, you want hero death or do you want banana peel death?
Hero death.
And then if you're old, you want banana peel death?
Yep.
Why?
It's funny.
Because I think, no, that's what I'm saying. I think it's fucking hilarious if you go banana peel death.
Yeah, I think it's hilarious.
So if, you know, all of my friends, if they're like, oh my God, Nick's fucking dead. Holy shit, what happened? Oh, he slipped on a banana peel and died. Like, there'll be a couple of them that are like, yeah, no, that tracks.
Right.
Yeah, that's...
But like, okay, it takes away from the hilarity if you're too young. Because it's so sad when young people die. More sad, I should say.
When do you stop being a young person for dying? Or is it just as long as you're not, like, old?
I mean, it's just below the median age. Or mean age.
Isn't the mean age, like, 40, probably?
Oh my God, no!
Why?
It's higher than that.
Why?
Because people live longer.
Well, no, but I'm saying mean age, right? So of everyone, because there's a lot fewer 80-year-olds than there are, like, 5-year-olds, right? But even between 80 and 0, because there's a couple of hundreds that'll drag that number up a little bit, but I feel like 40 is probably pretty close.
No, nah. It's higher.
I think if anything, it's lower.
No. Than 40 years old?
Yeah, because think about how
Our
many...
mean age expectancy is not...
Life expectancy, first of all. Second of all, we're not talking about life expectancy.
Semantics.
We're talking about... I thought you meant like people on the planet.
What?
I thought we were talking about the mean age of people on the planet, not like when you die.
Oh, yes. Okay, yeah.
No, the average person does not die at 40 because this is not the 1300s.
So I was confused.
No.
I was like, Nick, you can't believe that people die.
I'm not stupid. I'm just confused.
It's 40.
God, put that on a shirt
sticker.
For me.
Yeah.
No, fuck a sticker.
What? Why?
I don't know. Stickers are kind of lame.
Okay, my other friend...
Talk about the Daredevil thing.
Oh, yeah.
And then he just slips... Was that the whole thing? He slips on an orange peel and
dies. There's a second guy, though.
That is also a Daredevil?
Yes, in the 30s.
Yeah.
He goes over the edge of Niagara Falls in a barrel, which, you know...
I mean, it's the 30s.
Right, and he's in a steel barrel, because that's how you survive.
That's
Wooden
how
barrels
you
don't.
Die, but inside the barrel.
That's exactly what happened. So... he falls over the edge intentionally in this barrel. He survives the initial fall.
Which, bad.
But the barrel gets stuck in the rocks. And it's obviously sealed because water and, you know, the fall.
Yeah.
They aren't able to find him / get him out in enough time. And he suffocates in the barrel.
Wow.
But... the reason that the story is notable is because for good luck, he brought his turtle, Sonny Boy, over 100 years old, inside the barrel. Sonny Boy lived.
Of course he did. That motherfucker didn't live 100 years to be killed by an idiot going over a waterfall.
Literally.
Sonny Boy is like, well, first of all, it's got to be a tortoise, not a turtle, right?
It's a tortoise, yeah.
On the other hand, that feels like a good way to bludgeon yourself to death with Sonny Boy falling off a fucking waterfall.
True. But Sonny Boy is the only tortoise that we know of who has gone over Niagara Falls and lived, at least in a barrel. So, congrats to him. He's dead now because...
Why?
Because he was over 100 years old in the 30s.
Do we have an upper age limit on tortoises yet? I thought we had
the
like
oldest one is like 200 something.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So Sonny Boy, if he was 100 then, could totally be alive now.
Yeah, but I looked it up and he's not.
That's a shame.
So I know.
Goddamn fuckers killed Sonny Boy.
Killed Sonny Boy.
I want someone to answer for this.
Where is his line? I would like to see if his future generation has continued.
Yeah, the line of Sonny Boy.
Mm-hmm. Sonny Boys. So
the Sonny Boys, if you will.
Boys.
BOIS. So it's to be gender inclusive.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was the most notable ones. There's some pretty good history about it if you're interested. Lots of barrels, lots of people doing stupid things. It's pretty interesting. So would highly recommend falling into that rabbit hole.
Of just talking about people flinging themselves off waterfalls. Is Niagara the largest waterfall in the world? Or is
I don't know. But
I thought there was one in China that was like...
really large?
Not necessarily taller, but like wider. Like there was more waterfall.
Yeah, maybe.
Just wasn't as high.
Yeah. Also, did you know Niagara Falls is in, like, it spans America and Canada?
Yeah, it's up like New York type way, right?
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
It is New York because my friend just went there, which is why we were talking about it.
do people go? I guess people do go to Niagara Falls.
I mean,
so,
that wasn't
I'd
the
like
sole
to go,
purpose
but,
for the
like,
trip.
Yeah, I'd like to go, but like I'm not going to travel all the way across the country just to see a fucking waterfall. But
Right,
maybe that's
right.
what's wrong with today's youth.
Yeah, well, no, I've heard there's not a lot to do there. You just look at it.
Yeah, what do you? Well, fling yourself off of it is kind of the option, right?
Yeah, there's been a couple failed suicide attempts, but that's not in like public record.
What kind of?
That's a
like,
cosmic message.
That's what I'm saying. Like, what kind of religious experience do you have where you try to kill yourself, throwing yourself off Niagara Falls, and you don't die?
Right.
Like, even if you come out the other side pretty banged up, like, how do you not see that as, like, I don't know. I mean, maybe we have a tendency, as per the nature of this podcast, to kind of give in to magical thinking and stuff like that. So if you're not a spiritual person or anything like that, I mean, so be it. But it really feels to me like if you try that hard to kill yourself and you are prevented or fail, feels like something's going on, right?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, sure, you can call it a statistical anomaly, but isn't that just as amazing? Like, if it's 1 in a million chance, isn't that just as impressive as if some higher power is saying, hey, you deserve to be here?
Yeah, true.
Like, I think that's cool, too. I think regardless.
Oh, to be a statistical anomaly.
No, I think often it's a bad thing.
I just kind of
You're
want to
the
be
only
referred...
person in the world with this disease. Congrats.
Yeah. We don't know what it is. You have 10 days.
Yeah.
I also had a week.
Oh, yes. Enlighten me.
So obviously today I had my buddy's barbecue and got a little roasty toasty, but it was nice because that group of friends that I was with, it was the 4 of us. I had not seen all of them together in, I think, so what we worked it out, because one of them was saying that he had never been in the same room physically as both of the other 2.
Oh.
Which we quickly decided was false, but the last time that all 4 of us were together in the same room was March at my St. Patrick's Day party.
Damn.
Which gets into the memes about like adult relationships, and it's like, hey man, you want to hang out this week? And they're like, no. Okay, what about November?
Seriously.
You know? And it was just nice because, I mean, we all have a good time together. I like all of us being together, and it's just something that doesn't get to happen very frequently. So that was nice. Me and my roommate have also been watching Andor, the new Star Wars show.
How are you liking that?
The first 2 episodes, nothing happens. It's all set up.
Did you appreciate it anyway?
Yes, but only in the retrospect of having now seen the 3rd episode and having, like, information, I guess, to, like, the reason that they were setting up all of these characters, and you have to know who all of these people are and things like that. So when shit gets weird, right, it deals with a very new Star Wars concept to Disney canon. It was not a very new concept in Legends canon, right? So all the stuff that was written before Disney took over. But it is dealing with the control that the big corporations that exist in the Empire exert over the mid and outer rim worlds, right? Where the Empire can't really reach that far, so it relies on the corporations to not just run the business and stuff like that and the mines and all this, but also have their own private police force.
Oh my God.
And so one of the plot lines is following a character who is part of the corporation and part of this police force.
Oh, that's interesting.
And there's lots of like weird, not weird per se, but there's a lot of not imagery, but reference to like the IRA, like the Irish Republican Army, like resisting the black and tans and stuff like that. So there's a part, and I guess very light spoilers, like I will not talk about what's happening, but when the Corpo cops come and land on the planet that the characters are on, all of the locals start to freak out because they're like, I haven't really seen you guys here in a while. Like, usually when the Corpo cops there's some bad shit about to happen.
Yeah.
And so everyone starts like shuttering the front of their shops and stuff like that. But as soon as they start to see him walk into town, there's a bunch of like hanging bells and scrap pieces of metal that are just hung up, and people go and just start rapping on them. So there's just this big like noise going on through the whole town. And just as a like psychological thing, so it's an alarm, first of all, to say, hey, they're here. Second of all, it's a psychological thing to the corpo cops because they're like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
And then they have it set so that after a while of the alarm all going, they all stop at the same time, and then it's just silent.
Ooh, so you totally get used to it, and then you're like, why did they stop?
And then what's the reason,
Yeah.
right? So, like, one of the characters is getting kind of shaken down by the corpo cops, and they're like, what the fuck is that? And trying to get her to tell them what it is. And she's like, oh, you shouldn't be worried about the sound. You should be worried when it stops.
Ooh.
Yeah,
You
right?
just gave me chills.
Totally. So, pretty cool stuff happening there. I mean, it's not in this very, big hero man Star Wars energy where it's like Chosen One type shit, which I kind of like that we're in this era of Star Wars where it's like, if you just move the camera over to where the shit matters is not happening.
Right.
Like, what is just random low stakes bullshit adventures, which is, I think, what's been good about The Mandalorian and Boba Fett and stuff like that. I'm not going to say that I didn't like Obi-Wan, but it's Obi-Wan and Darth Vader and all of, like...
Right, main characters. There's nobody new, nothing
and
to
there's
discover.
Such low stakes because all of these characters have to live to go be in the movies later.
Right.
Whereas
that
with
too, yeah.
Andor or Mando or Boba, it's like literally anyone's fair fucking game. So when someone gets stabbed or shot, you're like, no, that's a real knife, know?
Right. That's like the same with Rings of Power right now, where, you have Galadriel and you have
Galadriel and Elrond,
and,
but then everyone else.
But
right?
Yeah, right. That's true. There's like a fair amount of, but that certain people have to fulfill this destinies. Like Isildur, you're like, okay, I know when you die.
Right.
So I do sort of like that new character. What anything could happen.
Isildur doesn't even get like a good death. My boy just gets shot in a river,
literally, and he also like makes the biggest mistake ever.
Literally the biggest mistake
in
ever.
the whole, like, in his age, basically.
Yeah, well, because that's the end of the second age.
End of the second age.
Battle,
so I guess, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So technically, I mean, if the show goes on long enough, we could get to see that.
Which
is kind of fucking
cool.
sick. Yeah.
I would like to see that.
Yeah. What else? Watch TV. I went on a, I guess, quote unquote, field trip for one of my labs this week, which I thought we were going to go get to shoot dart guns. Which we did not.
Oh, lame. My friend was telling me about that.
But I think that's maybe a later lab, and I was just confused about when it was actually happening. But they used to do net guns, and she has stopped doing net guns, the professor has, because you literally use like a shotgun blank, basically. And so when you shoot it, it sounds like a shotgun. And so for the morning lab, she would always call the local police department and be like, hey, I'm doing this. Don't think that someone has a shotgun. And they're like, yeah. And then for the morning class, it's fine. And then for the afternoon class, the cops always show up and are like, what the fuck's going on here?
Yeah.
So they've switched over to dart guns for that lab. But what we did this week was telemetry, which is tracking radio collars on animals with like the antenna and the receiver and stuff like that, which is pretty cool.
That's sick, yeah.
And then the other one was game cameras and like how those are used in wildlife type stuff, which is neat. But like I work at unnamed sports retailer, so I know. And they're talking about like infrared flash and stuff like that, and what a big... Because if you have, bright flash at animal during night, it just runs away.
Right.
Whereas infrared flash that it can't see doesn't startle the animal, so you get a lot more pictures and you get a lot better pictures, right? But on this field trip, we were in like it's a wildlife study area, a nature study area, right? But we're on a walk through it, and there's a part where there's a log bridge, and a log bridge is like a very generous term because it is not a bridge made out of logs like that are manufactured. It's like 4 logs that are just kind of put together to cross a stream.
Literally log bridge.
Literal log bridge, right?
Lincoln log.
And as they were going across, because we're 2 separate groups, so I was not in the group where this happened, but they were going across it, and this girl just slipped and biffed it and just full up in the stream.
Oh, no.
And had only done half the lab, so she still had to stay to do the other half of the lab.
Oh, no.
But thankfully, like, other girls who's like, here's a towel, here's an extra pair of pants that you can wear, and shit like this. But I'm like, is that not just the worst day?
That is the worst
because you feel
day.
embarrassed that you slipped and now you have to hang around.
Right.
Oh, I felt so bad. I was not there to see it, but I was like, and then everyone's going over the bridge in our group, and we had heard about this happening, and we're like shuffling very slowly, right? Well, and I'm worried about my knee anyway, because even if I slip and don't fall, I'm like, let's just go to the hospital. You know what I mean?
Straight away, literally.
But then after that whole area was all wet and muddy, and so we were kind of slipping and sliding. And my knee was not hurt, but afterwards was sore because it was putting a lot of pressure on like keeping it stable. You know, so
knees are so fucked.
What? I mean, my left one is, but what do you?
Just poorly engineered.
Are you saying that God's immaculate design is not enough for you? You fucking heretic.
Yes, I would like to float. Vision.
I can leave the floating. Well, I think that's kind of a cool thing, like a party trick to just like be hanging out in the ceiling or whatever, on the ceiling, not in the ceiling.
Marceline.
Yeah. Play bass guitar while you float through the air. I would much rather have like standard flight. You know, like the not floating where I kind of just hover and bob around and stuff, but I want powered flight.
But wouldn't you say that many of the characters who float are able to fly? Marceline's able to fly.
They're not. You don't always have full flight just because you can float.
Yes, true.
You know, it's to bring it back to a D&D example. It's Tensor's floating disc, which lets you levitate off the ground like 1.5 feet versus flying.
I do actually have dreams where I'm floating, trying to fly, and sometimes I get the altitude, but then I like fall back down, and I don't like crash, but I can only levitate. So I get that.
Cool. But yeah, that's
cool.
Well, I'm trying to wrap it up because we're at 31:30 here.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, we just sit here and bullshit for the whole everything.
We're so good at bullshitting.
We are professional bullshitters, we might say. I mean, we haven't been paid for this yet.
No.
And especially since I let the subscription run while we weren't doing this podcast, we're technically like $300 in the hole.
Yeah.
But who's
what
counting?
are you gonna do?
At some point, we'll sell shirts, and then we will be immediately in the black.
Right. Okay, so topic this week. The idea is you are living in society, as it were,
God,
in the moment.
what a fucking hypothetical. I'm not living in goddamn society. This is horse shit.
And
people can't even put their shopping carts back. You call this a fucking society?
Yeah, who does that? But anyway, it is found. Now, I don't know how... we haven't discussed the minutia of
you're
how
in charge of this shit. You fucking decide. You big decide.
I would rather have a conversation about it. So the idea is that a magical race reveals themselves.
So first of all, what qualifies as a magical race? Because that could sound like there is a race that... Like, what if we found out that white people could do magic? Like, that's a magical race, right? No, we're talking about, like, a fantasy race.
Yeah,
like
I'm talking about elves, mermaids, gnomes... etc. Bigfoots.
So let's have two parts to this conversation. I don't want to totally steal the control of the thing from you, but let's both of us select a race and then talk through how that would go. So do you want to go first? Yeah. No.
You know.
Yeah,
you know. I'm choosing mermaids, of course.
Okay. So first of all, speak to me about what real mermaid morphology would look like.
Okay. So I guess it depends what sort of mermaids they are. Because if you are following sort of sea creature, you know, I don't know, morphology, physiology. Look at us,
we know animal things.
Yeah, then, you know, if they're deep sea creatures, then they're scary. They're like anglerfish, disgusting,
goblin
weird
shark.
Literally goblin shark mermaid. Like, that's disgusting. Pale white skin, like claws. They've got, you know, probably don't have hair because that wouldn't be, you know, hydrodynamic. Is that
yep,
is that
hydrodynamic?
Okay. You know, they're all about the drift down at the bottom.
Yeah.
But if they are more shallowly based,
like a Luca type
mermaid,
yeah,
then they would for sure have more melanin because you need to be able to, you know, get away from the sun.
Yeah.
Assuming that they have human-ish skin, but they could also just be Luca.
Well,
but I guess that's not mermaids. That's sea monsters.
Yeah, I mean, it's whatever, right? It's kind of the same deal. They have tails. Yeah?
Right.
So yeah, I think that you're right that definitely they would be pretty melanistic, given that they don't have anything defending them from the sun. If they did have skin that was human-like,
right.
However, I don't think that they would have skin that is human-like because of the nature of their environment, right? Mm-hmm. If this race has stayed down there long enough to evolve and adapt to that environment, are we assuming also? I mean, they have opposable thumbs.
Yes, I'm assuming mammals. I'm assuming opposable thumbs.
Okay.
I am sort of envisioning.
You're really even going mammalian, huh?
Oh yeah. Well, if they have breasts, I assume that they do.
Yeah. I guess that's true.
I mean, all more mermaid lore, but I think that's more about sexy water creature.
Yeah, we love a sexy water creature. Mm-hmm. Got some manatees up in that.
Yeah.
But
oh yeah.
If it's mammalian, then it has to breathe air.
Right.
So you're saying this whole time we've just been missing mermaids coming up, sucking up some air.
I mean, the ocean's big.
The ocean is big.
Also, there are people who would argue that we haven't been missing it.
That's true. That's true. There are mermaid deniers.
Mermaid truthers.
Yeah, mermaid truthers. The mer truth.
And then that would be crazy.
And you know what happens if one of those fucking wackos is right about anything?
Oh,
like if mermaids or Bigfoot or aliens, any of it.
We're done.
Like as soon as one of those groups gets lent any kind of credence because they were correct, the fucking
society
chains are off.
Collapse.
Yeah. Because now everyone has a thing to be like, well, they were right. Why aren't I?
Right. Right. Where it's like, okay, well, you believed that mermaids were exist. Wow.
Mermaids were exist. They were.
And they were. But you can't seem to believe that chupacabras are real. That hurts.
Yeah, that's rough. Poor, chupacabra truthers on Suicide Watch. Yeah, so, okay, mammalian, probably not human skin. Mm-hmm. But, okay, so we find out about them. Are we going with the deep sea or are we going with the shallow?
I want to go with shallow because I think that's more interesting in a social context.
Okay.
Because if they're deep sea, then they're further removed from our civilization and probably would not be able to really communicate with them that well.
Sure.
And we also are assuming they're higher intelligence because, again, that's more interesting.
Yeah, because if they're deep sea, there's no reason to be able to see down there because you can't produce light. So either they don't have eyes.
Gross.
Or, well, if they're mammalian and they're all the way down there, they probably are using like echolocation or something.
Ooh, yeah.
So you have this eyeless, melaninless mermaid with these big, nasty grippers that is like clicking at you, right?
That is a horror movie, and I'm surprised no one's made it.
That is not free. That is patented.
Patented.
We came up with that. Fuck you.
Fuck you.
Yeah.
So, for the sake of this is not a horror thing that I want to go through.
Okay. All right.
I would like to discuss the shallow mermaids.
Okay.
Because, I mean, I assume that they have their own language, so, and depending on, okay, so the phrase that they reveal themselves makes it seem intentional. Like, maybe something's going on, or they just want to start.
I think this looks more like an event, right? That it is not like they come to the surface world and are like, here are our demands to be recognized by humanity, right? I think this is a shallow water fisherman is using a drift net or a seine net or something like that and drags one up, and it results in like another one coming up and like spearing him through the chest.
Yeah.
Right. But then you have the dead mermaid in the net, and now you have a dead fisherman with like a spear in him, and then the other fisherman brings the whole thing back.
Yeah.
And now we have no choice but to acknowledge that these things exist, and then something happens from this, right?
Well, and it's so interesting because, spear immediately implies like a civilization, like
tool
an
use,
advanced,
right? Yeah.
creature.
So we're talking at least, because it was only a while back that scientists said that they believed that the greater apes had entered their Stone Age.
I know,
right?
Planet of the Apes is real.
Dude. Yeah. But so, again, tool use. Now, when we're talking Stone Age, that's a lot longer than I think a lot of people think it is.
Absolutely.
I mean, they're not wearing skins and making tools. It's more like I take this sharp rock and I can use it as a weapon or a thing to do something with.
Exactly, realizing,
So we're talking like a late Stone Age. I have constructed a spear out of, I guess, bone or shell or something along those lines, right? And I think that, these tools, these weapons especially, would develop along the lines of also being hydrodynamic. So I think you see lots of spears and things like that, as opposed to something like a sword, because there's no use to it.
Right, yeah, because if you've ever tried to throw a punch in the water or just swing anything in the water, it just slows you down so much more that you want to do a jabbing situation.
Right. Or, I mean, even look at, the marine life that does exist. I mean, something like a pistol shrimp or a mantis shrimp. It's all quick, little, fast, single direction motion.
Exactly, yeah. And now, I think that regardless of where these people, these creatures surface, it's a bad it's not going to go over well.
Well, I mean, this is the same as so many of the podcasts that we've done where, okay, this happens. What's the logical conclusion? And maybe it's just because of being the people that we are. But I think very similar to all of those things, it goes fucking badly, Especially if somebody dies. Right. Well, as soon as one person is even injured, let alone dead.
Right.
All the, humanity, like we've talked about with the aliens before, it's like, oh yeah, no, nuke them.
Right.
Like put the bomb in the water,
Literally. And there's something to say about fear and there's something to say about power. And I think
I'm never going in the fucking ocean again.
Well, that too. I am not.
Because
I'm already sketchy about the ocean. Let's put that out there.
Like a minor thalassophobia type thing. Yeah. So, I think if there is an event that there is a quote-unquote diplomacy, like big air quote diplomacy that happens, but everyone's got a loaded gun while the diplomacy is happening.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
And depending on how advanced they are, like I was thinking similar to our intelligence. But if it's lesser than anything that comes off as a threat, you're fucking done. Like if you're with a troop of apes and you show a threat, they're going to just murder you.
Yeah, they'll just murder you for nothing.
Yeah.
Right? Or even let's go beyond that, right? Let's go beyond like an ape, right? Let's say that it's a similar, because there are uncontacted tribes that exist on the planet, right? That there's that one island where they keep shooting down drones every time we go try to look at them, which on the one hand, good for you, man.
Yeah, good for them.
Keep shooting down those drones.
Yeah, I agree.
On the other hand, some of the Amazonian tribes who are just so deep in there that they have either very rarely seen people or never seen people, right? If you go along those lines, I think similarly, because, we are so different or they are so different or whatever, that because there is so much fear involved, that it lends itself to immediate violence just because different, right? And so different.
Right. Well, and that's the thing is any sort of change people don't tend to like. And if you are so different, I mean, and you know what, granted, that can be a conversation, because if you see something, you don't know what it is, and you have any inclination that it's going to hurt you, you're going to fight or flight, you know? And that's just how it is.
And unfortunately, we have the means to fight real fucking hard. Yeah.
Yeah. And, I mean, every mermaid movie ever is about about, capturing, studying science.
Yeah, Shape of Water, Little Mermaid.
Splash.
The entire H2O series.
Right, Aquamarine.
There's a lot of them.
Yeah.
I'm proud of us that we were able to just list them off like that.
Yeah, well, I'm into it.
You are something of an aficionado. That's true.
Fish.
Aficionado. Wow, we're fucking terrible. So again, immediate violence. Is there anything mermaid specific that you think is different with Mermaid as opposed to something land-based or anything like that? Like, what is unique? Is it just the water that makes this unique? Because that we could just poison them for nothing, right? Like,
well,
they just
we
die.
are.
Yeah, they're probably a little bit upset about all the oil and such.
But so what I think makes it interesting is territory.
Okay.
Because there has been so much historically sticky stuff with international waters and deciding, when...
Yeah, if they live in international waters, fuck it. Just, you can stay there. That's fine.
Right. But if they're like on somebody's shore, there's going to be some weird control about the ocean and access to
like
the ocean
surface of the water versus the subsurface versus how deep can you go.
Exactly. And then
scuba diving is going to get real weird.
And there's going to be even more conversations about overfishing and that, because that's literally their only food source.
I'm assuming, they have tails, not legs.
Yeah.
Is there, so in the same way that scuba diving exists, and it's like a way for us who breathe air to go down and study and look at stuff and everything else, what is the solution to let them come up here, right? Because I wouldn't want to be put in like a tank of water and then dragged around. But if you made like a tube
or a vehicle
that I could, vehicle. Because again, if we're getting to the point like they have the intelligence necessary to use a vehicle, but we have to get to the point to explain to them. Whereas I'm thinking like just a big tube that is full of water that they can just swim through.
Oh, like a highway or something on land.
A water sidewalk.
Oh.
That they can just come check it out if they see fit, right?
I mean, I think that's construction of something like that would be a conversation that happened after this, whole debacle was settled. Right. But that's not something that immediately... Or, how some aquariums are literally on the ocean.
Yeah, like Monterey Bay type stuff.
Yeah, and like share walls with the ocean.
Yeah.
Like maybe that would just open into like a tank, like they have a wall, but there's like a hole they can go through. And it's like a reverse aquarium where they come observe us.
Dude, bet. I'll be the exhibit of the reverse aquarium.
Literally, me too.
Yeah. So that's kind of interesting, because in the reverse aquarium, are they like just here's a basketball match? Like,
I mean,
or like here's an art class. Like, what do you put in there that is interesting? Because we look at fish in an aquarium or animals in a zoo, and it's just about seeing them.
Right.
But you want to have it be more of an experience of just not just seeing us, but here's what we do.
Right. Here's our culture. Like, yeah. So I think that
you could play.
You could like host different events. You could be like, here's a like cook, and a restaurant essentially, or like here's
there's a lot of the food that we eat that they just will not have had access to. Like, what is a cow,
Right. Well, and you start to wonder about their diet too, because so many things are mainly like carnivorous or, because that's just, there's not a whole lot of vegetation in the ocean besides super shallow.
Because you could do like kelp forest stuff, and there's tons of calories and nutrients in brown algae, which is kelp.
Right.
But
it's just not common.
It's really not. So otherwise you're looking at, a lot of piscivorous type stuff. Shellfish are probably going to be big on the menu, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, and they probably live in like is it pelagic zone? That's like the deep, it's just essentially open water. Yep. So I think mainly they're going to, they probably have some pointy fucking teeth.
Yeah.
But true. Also if they're mammals.
Yeah.
Changes how they,
Yeah.
Also one thing I think would be interesting about mermaids is, like, even if they look human, I think a lot of their features will be, will just like mimic that look, if that makes sense. So like, if they have hair that looks like hair, it's not going to feel like hair. Because,
it's going to be weird slimo garbage.
Yeah, and their skin, like how earlier we were talking about, probably they would have scales, or something like that. I was thinking more like dolphin skin, because it looks like... Yeah,
it still has that kind of sheen of human skin. But then it's more of a rough kind of texture, and you can tell that it's a lot thicker,
Super thick, yeah.
Interesting.
Blubber.
Which is going to be an interesting thing, because dolphins don't have a lot of mobility outside of their spine and their tail, right? Whereas if you start introducing joints like shoulders and elbows, wrists, things like that, with that thick of skin, like I would imagine that their wrist probably doesn't move as well as ours does.
Yeah.
So it's a lot more of like there is a hand at the end of the forearm, and then it's all wrist and elbow.
Ooh, that's so interesting.
So just in the way that they move is going to be alien to some significant degree.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, that's so interesting.
Or even a shoulder is not going to have the same mobility. It's going to be lots of like just swinging back and forth and maybe a little bit up.
Right. And also, if they're mammalian descent, then their tails will be like they are in the movies. That's up and down because fish have side to side.
Right.
So I was thinking about that too, but I think it would be up and down.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Mm-hmm.
All right, sir. Do you have a race that you would like to discuss?
Yeah, we can throw something out here. I think we have to go land-based just for the sake of the conversation. Let's go mole people.
Oh no.
So just up from the ground, like it's some...
The Underminer!
Yeah. So let's say it's a, there's a mining accident that occurs or something like that. And let's, we spun the mermaid to be a negative interaction. Let's spin this to be a positive one. So we're doing some super deep site mining, like we're way, way the fuck down there, but where it's still people as opposed to just drilling. And there is a collapse, but that collapse brings the miners into like a mole person's living room type thing, right? Or like an amphitheater or something.
Yeah.
And then the mole people help them to get out, right? I think that the initial reaction starts a lot better, but similarly, if you're talking about a lightless environment, first of all, people are going to be freaked out because these things are going to look nasty as shit.
So nasty. I was just going to ask, so we just learned about this in my mammalogy class. Do they have fur or not?
I would argue yes, if for no other reason than some ingredient of like insulation. Because there's a lot of being underground that is relatively warm, just for the fact that if they are warm-blooded, and again, I think we would assume mammalian in this case, because otherwise you have to rely on sun temperature and stuff like that. So if they're purely underground, fossorial, then you have to have your own insulation. You probably have to produce your own heat. The feeding habits are going to be, I think, very mole-like, where it's insects, things like that.
Yeah, insectivorous.
But they can't be very big because there's not a lot of food underground to support that. So there are probably some subterranean caverns that are going to have maybe some horrible old species of fish in it. Right? They're down there dining on coelacanths and stuff like that. At Gollum, exactly. But again, I think that because mobility is not an issue because you have no predator, that you are squat, right? You are a relatively small being. And then again, because it's all your own insulation, there is nothing to protect you. You're probably pretty thick too.
Yeah, so like the quality that we described, fossorial is what they're called, underground animals, is tubular. So often that's why badgers and moles and stuff have that weird cylindrical body, because it's easier to... And another thing, loose skin, because if you have to turn around...
shimmy.
Ew.
Yeah.
Small... sometimes non-existent eyes and ears.
Yep.
At least outside ears, because you don't want to get in the way.
Yep.
And a lot of the times, big claws and stuff to dig.
Right.
There is one species called the pocket gopher who has lips behind its teeth so that it can dig with its teeth.
But not take anything in.
Exactly.
That's horrible.
Isn't that disgusting? And so you would think, our lips close horizontal. It's closed vertical.
Yeah.
Isn't that horrible?
I don't want it. No, mole people, no.
So maybe they help us, but everyone is going to be like, what is that?
Yeah, because there's no version of a mole person that is going to be at all attractive. Where at least a mermaid, there's some level of like, that looks kind of like a person, where mole people are going to be these horrible little homunculus just running around. Now, I think that in this case, similarly to the mermaid situation, the mole people have not wanted to be found. Right?
That's the whole thing about being underground.
Right. Is that they've stayed down there. Well, and I think that if their society were to develop as such, I mean, we do drilling and stuff like that, and there's probably some understanding of that there's something up there. But drilling is not a gentle thing, right? So there's probably some fear just from the fact of, like, they are a violent race that live on the surface. And again, if we're talking something that is, getting towards end of Stone Age type intelligence, I mean, I feel like being the mole person is a lot harder deal than being the mermaid. You know?
And you're right. I like mermaids. There are chance encounters with people. I feel like a lot more, because water is see-through, you know, and you can look and see that at least like bottoms of boats and stuff, legs of swimming people, depending on where you are.
Right.
Mole people, though, may have never ever seen a person before.
Right. Well, and who's to say that they can even see us?
Right. That too.
Right.
That too.
I think, again, we go back to something like echolocation or some great ability of scent. Exactly. Yeah, the star-nosed mole type thing going on.
Yeah, you.
Yeah. No, this is not I'm telling you, the mer person can be still vaguely human and functional, and there are ways to justify that. The mole person is a horrible little freak.
Well, and okay, so clothing could be of some benefit occasionally to mer people. Probably not, but maybe in some situations.
There's value. Or in terms of like a tribal structure or something, there's ceremony, right?
Mole people? Absolutely not.
Yeah, because I can't see you. Why do I care?
Yeah, and if you are tunneling, it's going to get caught on shit. Right. That's why you have the loose skin. Right. So they're little naked mole people. I mean, granted, they're probably fur, have some fur, because really naked mole rats are a horrible exception. Yeah. I mean, they're just so ugly, but they never get cancer, so there's some perks. Yeah.
You know what? I would be forever naked if it meant that I didn't get cancer.
Yeah. Same.
Yeah.
Same.
That's a slick deal.
No shame.
That the naked mole rat's pulling.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And they live like 25 years, which is really long compared to how big they are.
Yeah, true. Yeah. So the other thing too is if, the politics were to go awry with the mer people, they have some ability to just move. Right. To just go fucking somewhere else or deeper or whatever, right? That is a lot harder for the mole people because, you can go deeper, but because your source of food is going to have to be so specific, right? There's not a lot of place for you to go, right?
No. Yeah.
Because, depending on the situation, the closest they've gotten to the surface is only enough to get at like root vegetables, which is pretty fucking close, but you don't necessarily have to interact with people to do that, right?
Exactly.
There are only so many places, like especially if they're discovered on the North American continent, there are only so many places that are viable to find, swaths of root vegetable enough to feed a society. Right.
So insects, and as well, like the ground obviously gets tougher, harder as you go down. So they can physically only go down so deep, but probably wouldn't even want to because, like you're saying, their food source being roots, insects, that sort of thing, aren't going to be found that deep because there's no benefit to going that deep most of the time. So, and like, I don't really know how climates affect underground. Like, if they go too far north, the permafrost, I mean, they can't...
There's the permafrost, and then just for the fact that it is cold, the ground is harder, right?
Oh, yeah.
Whereas if they go too warm of a climate, you start getting very loamy soils, things like this, it's probably not very good for building infrastructure.
Right, it won't hold up as well. Like sand, if you can't, it's really difficult to dig.
Right, like there's no mole people here. Because desert, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be in the Midwest, which is not where you want to be as a mole person because you will be hunted.
They will.
I'm not going to say you wouldn't be hunted anywhere, but the Midwest will hunt you.
It will be assured.
Not just, I thought you were going to say you will be turned into a shirt. And I was like, yeah, it's probably true as well.
Mole people shirt.
Yeah,
Mole people shirt.
I mean, loose skin, right? Like, even though they're little, you just pull them off. That's a size large,
Ugh, yuck.
It's not great. Yeah, I'm not going to say it's comfortable, but it'd keep you warm. Good for tunneling.
I know for sure this shirt's good for tunneling. You know why? Mole person.
Genuine mole person.
Oh my god. So basically the conclusion is humans suck and will kill you.
Welcome to this week's installation of Humans Are Bad.
Yeah. That's pretty much it. I mean, there's no...
I even said before we got into today's topic, I don't want to be a part of this society. How do you call it a society?
Yeah.
And here we end in the same place. I'm just saying that my point of view has been lent much credence because of mole people.
Yes. I never thought that I would care for mole people, and here we are.
I care for their existence. I want them to be able to have an existence. I don't want to be part of that existence.
No, I agree.
Or
And you know what? I don't think we should.
I agree. Like, so do you think then there is this contact? Do we try to go back to a situation in which there is as much limited contact as possible?
I think it's in everyone's best interest.
Do we raise them up?
No,
we
God.
meet the mole people and like, here's how to build a furnace, you know?
Right.
Like,
well, they're just not adapted to that. What use would they have of certain things that we have invented for our own specific human advantage?
You're gonna tell me a mole person doesn't want like a space heater? They'll probably cook them. That's probably not a bad, that's not a good thing.
You know, they probably would like some stuff for sure.
Cooler to put your potatoes in, I guess. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. But like they probably don't
show
cook.
a homie how to cook, yeah.
Right.
You think that insect's good now? Put some garlic salt on that bitch.
Right. Well, like...
Garlic's a bulb. They might have had garlic.
Probably had garlic.
Yeah, a little seasoning.
Yeah. There'd probably be some advantages, but I think it's more advantageous to interact with the mermaids because we could earn a lot more from learning how to navigate the sea than underground.
That's true. Yeah, big corpo underground is not as important in the sea.
Yeah.
I also think that there's a lot of like ecological benefit to having a race of people that can breathe underwater.
Absolutely.
We're like, yo, you want to be the best game warden?
That's what I was going to say.
Take a net and stick it in that guy's, propellers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I was going to say is like poaching whales, you're done. The water police are in the water.
The water police are in the water.
You know?
We gave the mermaids firearms on this season of fucking whale wars.
Also, I would like to know if megalodons still exist.
I don't want that information.
Some people think it's true.
I know.
Did you know that?
I do. And in the same way that the Bigfoot and the Loch Ness Monster and everything else, if megalodons exist, I don't want to know.
Yeah, I'm already uncomfortable with orcas and sperm whales.
Well, yeah. Well, sperm whales at least are not going to eat you.
Well, watch Pinocchio.
No.
Good point. Good point.
Yeah. But like, an orca might just decide that you're food. And there is nothing to be done.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it will throw you in the air, do a kickflip on your corpse, and then swallow you whole.
Fucking sick, bro.
Yeah.
Sick moves. Yeah, I've had a lot of nightmares about him, so.
About orcas specifically?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to say I don't get it, but, like, that's a pretty specific nightmare.
Yeah. Like, and I'm always swimming towards the shore, and I have to get there, and it's following me.
Yeah.
Bad deal, so.
Yeah, that's the worst.
Mm-hmm.
Any situation that you are placed in any type of peril that you have no control over,
mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And that sounds like a dumb thing to say out loud, but I feel like there's a lot of peril in which you have some level of control.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we've entirely diverted off of the topic here. Mermaids, I think, is going to be more of a potential benefit to both parties. Mole people, we might be able to benefit them some. They probably will offer no benefit to us and will subsequently be probably hunted to extinction.
Mm-hmm.
But put in zoos, probably. Mermaids, potentially, depending on how that goes. And again, the level of intelligence, because people zoos were a thing that existed.
Right, which is foul.
Yeah, but I'm not going to say that there wouldn't be a section of the population that's like, oh yeah, just put it in a fucking aquarium.
Oh, absolutely.
Dude.
No, yeah. A lot of people. Too many people, probably.
Too many people.
So, yeah.
Cool.
Well,
yeah, feeling confident,
feeling good about that. Yeah.
Good.
I think we made the correct calls, but biased. But
Well, and if you ever have anything that you feel that we didn't make the correct call, or would like to write in to tell us about your thoughts on mermaids and mole people, which is alliterative, and I like that we did that accidentally.
Yes, me too.
You can send an email into hypotheticalsiblings@gmail.com. Once again, that's hypothetical, HYPOTHETICAL, siblings@gmail.com. Thanks for coming, everybody. We appreciate you being here, and
have a good week.
Yeah, we'll see you next week, folks.
See you next Monday.
Monday.